There are more and more schools and training programs to help you get your start in the game industry, but many people who end up here are self taught. Perhaps you're interested in game audio, but you don't know how to get started. Don't let anxiety rear its head because our next speaker has some tried and true tips to help you get started in game audio. Bringing her experience as a sound designer from a shell in the pit, this is going to be a journey that'll make sure getting into the games industry is a real hoot. Please welcome to the stage, Jamie Lee. And forgive my puns, you'll get it in a second, I promise.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to my talk today. My name is Jamie Lee, and I'm a sound designer at a game audio studio, A Shell in the Pit, based in Vancouver, Canada. I've been in the industry for a year now, and I have worked on a few projects, including Pacific Drive by Ironwood Studios. And here's my talk, F.A.R.T, F.A.R.T, a four-step guide to break into the industry for self-taught sound designers. In this talk, we will be going through 4 steps that will help you to achieve your dreams of being game sound designers as self-taught. To start, I'd like to give you a little bit of background of myself. Surprise! I am a jazz drummer. I studied jazz at a university here in Vancouver, majored in performance. I released 2 albums, one with my jazz trio in 2020 and one VGM-inspired electronic album with a friend in 2021. I was gigging, touring, teaching, doing session work, basically doing everything that a full-time musician would. And that went on for about 10 years until I decided to make a career switch at the beginning of 2022 because I was really burnt out and was looking for some serious changes in life because of that. I was specifically looking for financial stability, work-life balance, and just some time I could spend with my loved ones. So then, how did I get into sound design, you might ask? When my friend and I started working on the video game music / electronic album, that was actually the first time I picked up a DAW, digital audio workstation. I used Logic Pro, and it was the perfect DAW for me to learn and practice production skills at the time. And we really enjoyed making the music digitally using DAWs compared to pen and paper or piano and me, that kind of things. And so we eventually decided to dig more into composing gigs in the game industry, hoping that it would generate some passive income for us. But we had no experience or knowledge in the game industry other than being a customer, a player. So my friend suggested us to do Brecky's Game Jam. So we get some ideas of how game development worked and hopefully find some composition work there. And to be honest, I had no idea that sound design was even a career path at the time. Even though we both went into it as composers, I ended up taking the sound designer role because my friend was much, much faster at sketching ideas than me. But luckily, though, I immediately fell in love with sound design. It was a very refreshing way for me to express creativity, and it was so fun because it was nothing like I've done before. So I knew I wanted to get into game audio, but I couldn't find any time to study for it because of my full-time musician schedule. So I decided to save up some money aggressively to buy myself some time to solely focus on studying game audio. And by the summer of 2022, I finally could afford 2 months of no income. That was a big thing for me, you guys. It was a hard hustling, bustling time. And anyway, so I planned out how I wanted to spend the time most efficiently with a few goals in mind, such as having solid knowledge in Wise and making a decent demo reel so I could start applying to studios. During that time, I was asking a lot of questions on Twitter about literally everything because I didn't know anything. And one day, Gord from A Shell in the Pit was helping me out with something, and he suggested me to take their paid test kit at the end of our conversation. I was like, what? Are you sure about this? And it's paid? Sure. I mean, like, hell yeah, thank you. And at the end of it, luckily they liked me. And that was the beginning of my game audio career. So you might be wondering, why is Jamie giving us story time? Spending so much time at the beginning of the presentation? Well, because it's tough for us self-taught sound designers to juggle between whatever jobs we have to make a living and to learn a completely new skill set at the same time. And I'm sharing my story because as we go through the 4 steps of FART, F-A-R-T, I want you to have real life examples. Some of them might not be applicable for you, but at least they can be an inspiration as you plan out your own game audio journey. Each letter in FART, F-A-R-T, represents a tool that every self-taught sound designer can benefit from. F stands for foundation, A for assessment, R for relationships, and T for trust. We will go through each letter one by one and learn what they are and how you can utilize them in your unique game audio journey. So we'll start with F for foundation. It is really, really important for us self-taught sound designers to understand the foundation of what we're getting ourselves into. There are many different branches in game audio, such as dialogue editing, mixing, recording, technical implementation, programming, so many more. But I don't want us to get distracted in learning all of them. Instead, we'll focus on sound design particularly in this presentation. So what exactly is video game sound design? The dictionary definition of sound design is the craft of creating any sonic element you hear in games. Your designs will enrich the in-game world and support the gameplay narrative, and sometimes provide crucial information to the players that's not visually present. Some examples would be ambiences. Ambiences contain lots of information to give the full immersive experience for the players. They help sculpting the overall vibe of the environment along with the visual elements in the scenes. Players can pick up where they are at and even what time of the day it is just from the ambient sounds. Next is character sounds. Character sounds include any sounds characters make. This includes any action sounds such as footsteps, jumping, running, walking, and there can be lots of Foley work involved as well, depending on the art style of the game. It also includes important audio cues such as health status of the character, interactions with other elements in the world, and so on. Next up is UI. UI sounds are usually subtle and very short to prevent hearing fatigue because it's always there with the players. It can be as obvious as clicking sounds in the menu to a very subtle hovering sounds or quest complete sounds and so on. Last one is physics sounds. Physics sounds can be anything related to the physical movement of the objects or characters, such as collisions, impacts, combat physics, and so on. There's much more to the types of sound design a sound designer can cover, but it's worth noting that it also varies a lot, depending on the genre of the game, core mechanics and gameplay, budget, timeline, etc. So keep in mind that the examples I gave you might shift around based on how the audio system is set up, along with the game design. When you first dive into sound design, it can be quite overwhelming. It's easy to get the idea of, oh, wow, I need to get this gear, that plugin, this DAW, Reddit said this, and like this community said this, and it's all so expensive, so overwhelming. But in my opinion, these free resources I'll be sharing with you are plenty enough to get you started and learn some serious sound design chops just off from that. GameAudioLearning.com is the first one. It's made by Greg Lester, and this website walks you through all things you need to know when starting in game audio, from how to design a sound, to technical implementation, to making your sound design reel and CV. It's really, really well organized and beginner friendly, so I strongly recommend you checking it out. They also have a big list of mentors you can reach out to, which is such an invaluable resource as a newbie. Greg also runs Air Wiggles with Louis Thompson. It's a very wholesome and welcoming community for all audio people. Recently, they successfully hosted an online audio conference that featured 50 plus talks that cover a wide range of all things audio. It's completely free and accessible for you, so go check it out. The free audio resources list is made by Presley Hines, and it was super helpful for me when I first started out. It has not only a well-organized list of free plugins, but also learning resources, free sound libraries, blogs, and job listings. Fmod and Wise are something you will come across a lot when researching for this career path, and they are the most commonly used middlewares to implement sounds, and knowing these would for sure benefit your job hunting aspect and overall design skills. Both of them have free tutorials and project games that you can practice with, so I recommend you checking it out. And the last one is Real Talk. It's a Twitch live stream by Kevin Ragami at Power Up Audio that reviews sound designers' demo reels and gives valuable feedback. If you're building your own reel, this is an amazing resource you can check out to not only getting feedback from industry professionals, but also to check out the current trend in demo reels and what other sound designers are cooking up. Next up, we're moving fast, I know. I'll be posting the slides on my social media or GDOC Expo, so don't worry too much. But here we go. Next up is A. A is for assessment. Most self-taught sound designers, especially those who are fresh and wanting to break into the industry, probably have full-time day jobs and even multiple part-time jobs to pay the bills, meaning it's going to be hard to find time and resources to learn a completely new skill set. That's why being able to assess your situation objectively is very, very important. Everyone has different situations and affordability, both time-wise and financially. So it's crucial to figure out what you can take on right now in this moment. When you're assessing your situation, it's important to know where you're currently at and how much time you can slice in your current schedule and budget to study. And it'll be really difficult to gauge that without setting up some short-term and long-term goals. For example, my short-term goals were to have a decent demo reel and to finish Wise courses. So I budgeted myself 2 months working on those from 9 to 3 during weekdays. I budgeted quite generous amount of quote-unquote downtime because another personal goal of mine was to recover from a bad burnout at the time. My long-term goal was to land a job in 2 years, and my top priority in achieving that goal was, again, not to burn myself out and being patient, going at a slow pace. You can see the pattern of me setting up practical goals while prioritizing my values because it's really important to assess all aspects of who you are, where you're at, and what you want to achieve. So, like I mentioned earlier, I realized I couldn't afford any time to invest in game audio while keep doing my job. So I took the route to save up money, to buy myself time, to focus on the goals. Now, I gotta admit that the route I took was rather extreme. I only could do that because I was a self employed person. And most people working for other places won't be able to just take 2 months off and come back. So there should be another way to accommodate those specific situations. I don't have all the answers, but one thing I want to emphasize a lot is the question of how long can you sustain that for whatever solution you come up with. How long can you sustain this for? It's easy for us to get inspired and motivated and go full out for a month or so and like burn out at the end of it. So when I say assessment, I also want you to assess what method and pace of learning you feel most comfortable at and see if there is any need for changes. Game audio is a very, very specific and in-depth skill that we'll need a long time to get a grasp of. So we'll need to play the long game, and the key for managing your endurance is to know your limits. All right, next up is R for relationships. In this segment, we'll look into networking and soft skills. Networking is a huge topic in itself, but we will focus on the types of networking that can benefit self-taught sound designers specifically. And in any networking situation, it should be about meeting people and building personal connections, not asking for jobs or being appropriate and like be bro, you know, just keep it professional. So first suggestion is mentorship programs. I cannot recommend you more to get into mentorship programs. It's so crucial to have another person who cares about your growth and can offer help whenever you need it. Air Wiggles has a deep network of cool industry professionals who are willing to volunteer their time for mentorship. And you can find the list on Air Wiggles or gameaudiolearning.com. You should also look into other game industry mentorship programs and conferences. There are quite a few programs and scholarships you can apply, especially as personal color or someone from marginalized groups. Some examples are the Game Audio Diversity Alliance Conference scholarships, Game Devs of Color GDC scholarships, which really, really helped me earlier this year, and I really recommend you to apply for it. And Women in Games International Mentorship Program, and so many more. So I really recommend you to just go online. You can Google stuff and things will pop up. You can also reach out to people personally and ask for mentorship. One thing I'd like to emphasize for this, though, is that whenever you ask for mentorship, be as specific as possible on which area you'd like the help for and how much help you need. Finding the right community site for you is very important too. This kind of goes back to assessing your needs. You need to figure out what each community is focused on and what you can take part in. And with the recent development of a certain social media site, it's getting more and more and more confusing as to where are these communities, So I recommend you just like taking time and focus on a few community sites at a time. Even if you're looking for building online presence, you don't have to actually diverge too much. Just find a site or two that fit your vibe and just stick with them. A few of my suggestions would be Air Wiggles, Game Audio Slack, Field Recording Slack, great channel, by the way. I always get crowdsourcing libraries and free libraries that people built, and it's a great resource. And a bunch of Discord servers. Meetups are awesome to meet new people and expand your community. I recommend going to not only game audio meetups, but also just general game dev meetups. The more you learn about game development ecosystem, the better your designs will be. And what's a better way to learn that from fellow developers? If you can't find any meetups in your area, which is actually very possible, I encourage you to create your own. Meetups never have to be like big events with hundreds of people. It can always start with a few people in your area who share similar interests as you and who are fun to hang out with. All right, let's look at soft skills now. The dictionary definition of soft skills is personal attributes that enable someone to interact effectively and harmoniously with other people. Whether we work as freelance sound designers or working at a studio, we will always be working with people. And one basic rule of thumb that applies in every job is to not be an asshole, be a pleasant person to work with and to be around. It's a professional environment, so keep it professional. Don't be rude, be nice, don't say asshole. Another one I see a lot is lack of proper communication etiquette. It's basic things like introducing yourself when you are talking to someone whom you have never met before, being on time for calls, being polite, being respectful of that person's boundaries. Also, asking for their availabilities if you need specific favor from that person. Specifically for us sound designers, a good example for it would be reviewing your designs or demo reels. You can be friends with folks, but that doesn't mean you'll treat them like a friend from high school. It's all about showing respect to the person you're communicating with. And you want to be attentive, appreciative of that person taking time to interact with you. And you should expect the same from the other side as well. And this also applies when you're interacting with your clients. Listen to what they need and communicate your thoughts. No one, you guys, I'm telling you, no one can read other people's minds. So it's important to actively communicate with each other. Again, keep in mind that working in games is not always about technical skills. It's super important to develop soft skills and learn how to work with other people. One thing that I'm sure that all self-taught sound designers bring to the table is that we all have our unique skill sets from different backgrounds. And that leads us to my next point, which is trust. So the word trust is a bit more vague than other points we've looked at so far. I just wanted to dedicate one of the points for mental health and managing your well-being, pursuing this potentially really long, winding journey. First thing I want you to trust is your abilities and experiences that might not seem useful for game audio jobs at the moment. I can say with confidence that whatever you did before sound design are valuable assets that can assist you in this new career. For example, I had 10-year experience of being a self-employed musician. That career path required me to be resilient, tenacious, organized, self-motivated, as well as having decent self-promotion skills. And they all played critical parts in my game audio career, such as deciding to jump into something I had no idea about, getting myself out there and letting people know who I was, and knowing what works for me and what not, and plan accordingly. I'm sure that all of you self-taught sound designers come from really interesting backgrounds and experiences, so don't underestimate what you have accomplished so far. I repeat, don't underestimate what you accomplished so far. Okay? Very important. Those are what make you who you are, and who you are will not change whether you work in game audio or not. So really hold on to it. It's really, really valuable. Secondly, I want you to trust the process. People break into the industry at all different speeds and rates. There is literally no one who's starting from the same starting line as you, nor have the same situations and skills as you. There's no guarantee in how much time you will have to spend before landing the first industry job. But because of that, it's really important to trust the process and time that you are putting into this new craft. I want you to utilize all the points we've discussed so far to the maximum and allow them to take some load off from pursuing this career, especially in the first job hunting period, which can be probably the toughest that you will have to go through. And trust the process. I promise you that you are not the only one and you're only moving forward. So be patient and nice to yourself. Lastly, I want you to find a circle of people that you trust and can grow with. I once got an advice to find one person who can mentor you and guide you, who's further down the career path than you. 3 people who are in the similar position as you, which for me at the time were other fellow self-taught sound designers who recently started game audio journey. They are all now my really good friends. We always hang out, share information, and be good inspirations for each other. So I recommend you finding those 3 people. And lastly, just find one person that you can mentor. Now, when I say to mentor, it sounds like a big deal, but it's really not. There's always someone who can benefit from the knowledge you have, even though at the time, like it might not feel like a big deal, but there is always someone who can benefit from it. Share the information you have and help out whenever people need help. This will reinforce your skills in the ways that you have never expected. In fact, me giving this talk is also an extension of practicing it. Right, so we are at the end. We'll summarize. We have looked into 4 steps to break into the industry as self-taught sound designers. Number 1 was F for foundation. Always strive to learn new and old skills, all things sound design. There's infinite learning required to pursue this career, and having a solid foundation is a must-have. Don't underestimate it. And don't forget to check out the free resources slide that I'll be posting, and it'll be a great starting point for you. Next was A for assessment. Being able to assess your situation objectively is a great strength that self-taught sound designers can have. Remember that your dreams have to stem from the reality. Don't overproject yourself and burn out. We're here to play the long game. Next is art for relationships. Working in game audio requires you to work with people all the time. Be a nice person to be around and seek for networking opportunities as much as you can. Remember to find 1 mentor, 3 colleagues, and 1 mentee. Last but not least, trust yourself and the process. Make sure to be patient and nice to yourself. You are your best companion in this journey. Repeat after me. We got this. We got this. All right, that's about it. Thanks for listening. I hope the F.A.R.T helped you, self-taught sound designers. Feel free to reach me at jamie@ashellindthepit.com if you have any questions or feedback, or even just to say hi. I love meeting new people. You guys, don't hold back, and happy F.A.R.T.
All right, so I tried to come up with more fart jokes to use in the outro, but I couldn't really think of any. I guess I just kind of sorry. I'm a streamer. It's hard to resist a good pun, but the fart method does seem like a sound method of figuring out how to break your way into the industry. So thank you for that talk, Jamie. I hope that everyone in the audience will be able to use this to really stand out in a crowd. I I'm sorry, it's day 4. I'm somebody. I had to have one. All right, somebody. Uh, it, it's fine. It's fine.